You're listening to Opera Box Score.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Wherever you are, however you're listening, it's America's talk radio show about opera. It's Opera Box Score. I'm Ashley Hardgrave, back again, finally, joined by my buddies Oliver Camacho, Matt Cummings, and Weston Williams. Full house. All right, this week it is the final four of our March Madness Summer Festival bracket. Who wins when England, France, and Germany dare to go against the U.S.? Oh, that felt different to say just months ago. Plus, in the 2-minute drill, breaking news as we record, season announcements, and the Kennedy Center is still there. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast on Spotify. You're going to click follow on Apple Podcasts. You're going to hit that plus sign. You can also email us your hot takes by writing to mailbag@operaboxscore.com, or you can upload a voice memo using the You Got Something to Say tab on our website. That is operaboxscore.com. However you contribute, you're going to get an OBS beer coaster, an OBS lapel pin, and the completely sought-after #1 OBS fan foam finger, just for sharing your own hot take. Gentlemen, it is nice to see all of you. It's been a minute. Oliver Camacho, how are you, honey?
We're all here. We're all just hanging in there.
Good times and bum times. I've seen them all, and my dear.
Yeah. I'm still here.
No, Wes and I are very involved in the fundraising effort at the station, and he literally just got home to record.
I was tearing around corners, dodging pedestrians left and right, and crashed just outside this very closet in which I'm recording.
That's dedication. So we put up content every week, folks. That ought to be enough for you to share the word about
It wouldn't be Opera Box Score without you, Weston. So.
Yes.
That's true. Weston, how are you otherwise? Jalopy emoji gif notwithstanding.
I'm very excited to be on a show where I don't have to be reading out the beginning of the show. I'm just taking a break.
I know, we should have put more foreign nouns into the copy.
Listen, you and I and everybody here both know the foreign nouns are not the best when they come out of the Hardgrave. Matt Cummings, how are you, my dear?
I'm good. I'm just wishing that we could bring back our video pods so that the audience could see the hair off that you and I are having tonight.
It's kind of incredible.
Listeners, there is so much beautiful texture on our Zoom screens right now. It is
mostly coming from me. So.
We're an ad for mousse and gel, and it is, I'm here for it.
Inner Sense, if you're listening, hit me up.
We love Inner Sense. Also, we love the Dew. Also, hi, America. Hey, listeners, how are you? It's been a minute since I've seen you. I have been, as my grandmother would say, all over tarnation for that other job that, pays my rent. But while I was gone, the majority of the actual March Madness was happening. So the men's quartet is set for next week. It's going to be University of Houston, Duke, Florida, and Auburn. Thank you, SEC, for the major representation. Weston and I are grateful. The women's matches are going to be finalized tonight. In fact, let's see where we are right about now. NCAA women's. We are currently looking at...
For our listeners, Ashley is currently typing furiously while Matrix-style green letters pour over her screen. I'm in.
That's exactly what I'm in. Yes. So University of Texas and TCU are playing right now. And then shortly after that will be the next game, which I believe is going to be USC and UConn. So by the time we finish tonight and by the time this episode is released, you will have the Final Four in the women's finals as well. We have lots of criticism, though, especially on the women's side, about these consolidated super regionals. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this concept. They, instead of having sort of these 4 different areas in the way that the men's do, the women's have been consolidated. There's one, I think it's in Birmingham, and then the other one's in Spokane. So instead of having 4 different regional things, everybody's just going to one of those 2 sites. And 2 of the biggest coaches in the game, Kim Mulkey at LSU and Ariema at UConn, are very, very critical of this, even though their teams are at the top of each of these competitions. They're basically saying that they're ruining the game. They're consolidating the fan base. They're critical of the amount of money-making opportunities that are there. And when sports is having trouble making money, I think I should be worried for, everybody. Meanwhile, let's talk some opera.
Opera class. Sports radio crass. This is Opera Box Score.
When we last left off, we had narrowed down our Sweet 16 of summer festivals to the Elite 8, and we have now arrived at the final 4 on the non-English speaking side of the bracket. We have Aix-en-Provence Festival in the south of France and the Salzburg Festival in the cold of Austria. Then we have
cold in July, but all right.
And on the English-speaking side, the natural world, we have Opera Theater of St. Louis versus the Glyndebourne Festival. We're each going to pick our own festival, and the other 2 panelists are going to judge. And we're going to start off with the Aix-en-Provence Festival representing Europe. Once again, they have 3 full operas plus a conceptual program directed by Peter Sellers, which is operatic, and a abridged version of Billy Budd, plus 2 operas in concert. So if you smash together all of those offerings, it's really like 4 full operas and two concerts. Starry casts, as always. Many corners of the repertoire are presented. We have a Mozart, Don Giovanni, which has a fantastic cast, which we might talk about if we need to get down to those granular details. We have the most important opera of its time, Gustave Charpentier's Louise. We have one of my favorite operas.
Another chance to talk about Louise.
We have one of my favorite Seicento shows, Cavalli's La Callisto, which is a riot. If you've never seen Callisto, it is so much fun. It is absurd. It is grotesque. And it is also very beautiful. It's everything. Once again, the conceptual piece directed by Peter Sellers, Sivan Eldar and Ganaya Doraiswamy's The Jeweled Deer. There's a abridged version of Billy Budd, which focuses on the 3 main characters. And there's a chorus, but I think they cut out all the other sailors. And then in concert, Pearl Fishers, conducted by Mark Minkowski, and La Forza del Destino, conducted by Gianni Ustioni. If we're going based on repertoire, I feel like there's a nice selection. There's something for everybody. And there's 3 new productions and 2 world premieres. So really the majority of its season is all new for French audiences. Over to you, Matt.
Well, in Salzburg, they are laughing at your having to round up to make it to 4 make full stage operas, because they have 7 full operas plus a number of performance art pieces, and we've got our own Peter Sellers deconstruction of the repertoire with one of the most sought after tickets, the One Morning Turns Into an Eternity, which is conducted by the great Esa-Pekka Salonen. And that evening is put together based on the Schönberg Erwartung, the Webern 5 Pieces for Orchestra, and then the Mahler Der Abschied from Das Lied von der Erde, which is just one of those songs and is about half an hour
30-minute
long.
song, yeah.
Yeah, it's just one,
Sure,
just a
yeah.
little ditty. The eternity piece of it. And to hear the Vienna Philharmonic, who is in residence at Salzburg, play the music of their hometown heroes is just, I mean, that's enough to put it over the top, if you ask me personally. But then you also have Giulia Cesare in Egitto in a new production by Dmitry Chernikov and conducted from the harpsichord by Emmanuel Aim, with a cast of young and young-ish Baroque specialists, including Christophe Dumont and Olga Koczynska. Oh, the one that I'm really the most excited for, I have to say, is Maria Stuarda, which is not my favorite of the Donizetti 3 queens, but I will see Lisette Oropesa sing anything. And that is the one of the 3 that is the best fit for her voice, hands down. And she'll be wonderfully opposed by Kate Lindsay as Queen Elizabeth, which is, I mean, there's going to be some fireworks.
That's going to be
That's a
that's going to be great,
showdown.
honestly.
You have a chance to catch the still performing Cecilia Bartoli in the new Hotel Metamorphosis, which is a pasticcio of Vivaldi arias. And she'll also be accompanied by Leah Desandre and Philippe Jarouski, an old favorite of Oliver, How the Tables Have Turned.
Yeah, you're going into all these artists. What are you going to do if you make it to the next round? You have nothing left to say.
Oliver, those are only half of the productions. I'm going to save some powder for the final round.
Jesus.
So if you want to hear who else is going to be performing at Salzburg, judges.
I mean, speaking as a judge, I do like judging. I don't want to rely too heavily on the amount of operas because I fear my selection coming up might be at a slight disadvantage. But I really do like. I think when I think of Aix-en-Provence, I do really think of like those more experimental things more than I do with Salzburg, which is something I'm very into. However, the casting for just the few that Matt has already talked about is so immaculate. It's hard to get me super excited for Bel Canto, but here I am. You know what I mean?
We have there's like a penalty that we can throw down here for Matt talking about cast when we're supposed to be talking about repertoire.
I mean, as much as I want to force Oliver to talk about Louise over and over and over again, just to see how long he's going to do it, I have to say, from a programming perspective, yeah, I mean, I agree with Weston. You know, you usually expect AIX to have their super, super out there avant-garde, and they've done it. You know, I mean, who doesn't want to see a world premiere of The Jeweled Deer? But there's some of the stuff going on at Salzburg that's like, I mean, again, I know we're not totally talking about personnel, but like you put Esa-Pekka and Emmanuel Laim in the same like couple of weeks. Let me set up shop. I'm going to sleep outside the theater until I can get in there and see that.
I haven't even mentioned Peter Edfish.
How long is the festival? Are we talking about? Because like I feel like you're combining some of the Whitsun with the larger Salzburg Festival. I mean, like if you do X, we're talking about, you know, basically 10 days where everything is happening, right? How long is X? Let me see this year.
He's in.
July 11th through July 20th. I'm sorry, July 4th through July 21st.
He wasn't in, but now he is.
Yeah. So that's like just under 3 weeks is when everything is happening at Aix-en-Provence. And while you're there, you know, you're in the south of France. You can go to, you know, the rest of Provence. You can go to the Côte d'Azur.
But can you go on the Sound of Music tour?
The Sound of Music bus tour is a bop that I have been on.
How long would it take you to see all of those things at Salzburg? How long would you have to stay there to even experience half of what you're talking about?
Well, you make it sound like staying in Salzburg is such a chore.
I mean, the festival does run for like 6 weeks, so it is about twice the amount of time that you would need to stay at X. But Weston, what are you thinking here, buddy?
I mean, I'm leaning towards Salzburg, just because of the variety and the sheer amount of star power. I do also, I might have a little bit of a Austrian bias. I've been to Austria and France, and like Austria, I think might be better. Oh no, I'm being canceled. Oh God, our French listeners, they're coming for me.
Buddy, it's gonna be okay. I am going to, again, you know, as much as this new production of Louise is very exciting, it is a new production, so it means it will come back around. Some other house is going to snap
I'm
it
begging
up.
one person to name a single thing that happens in Louise other than Depuis Le Jour if we're going to keep talking about it.
I think just on the strength or lack of strength of Louise, I think it probably has to go to Salzburg.
Wow. All right, I see you. So next time Opera Box Score is invited to Aix-en-Provence and they offer me 2 tickets,
It'll just be you.
I'll know to take our new co-host.
Wah, wah, wah.
Well, I believe it's on to the next round, yes?
Moving on to the English-speaking world, yes. Where Louise means even less.
Well, we have, I'll start with Opera Theater St. Louis. Just a quick reminder, we have 4 operas total. It's not quite Salzburg, but it's got some good stuff in it. We have Die Fledermaus, which is perhaps the Louise of this bracket, followed by This House, which is a world premiere by a friend of the show, Ricky Ian Gordon. And we also have a Don Pasquale, a new production, which is an homage to the very first Opera Theater St. Louis ever put on, which I think is really cute because it's their 50th anniversary season. And then they're rounding everything out with Britain's Midsummer Night's Dream, which is always great when done well. Like I get so pumped for Midsummer Night's Dream. They're bringing in Leonard Slatkin to conduct, and he made his opera debut at Opera Theater St. Louis, actually. I don't know exactly which production. I tried to find it, but could not. That's bonus points for me specifically because Leonard Slatkin is distantly related to my wife. That's a fun fact about me and my family. The Russian judge.
Yes.
In terms of performers, I don't want to spend too much time on it because Oliver established that I was cheating.
No, I'm talking about that.
But also
Is
because
that sour grapes I hear?
We do have a friend of the show, Jonathan McCullough, is going to be in Fledermaus, trying to offset the Louise energy there. Most of the casts, at Opera Theater St. Louis are going to be a little bit, lesser known, a little bit younger for the most part.
A little more American, maybe?
A little more American, yeah. But I think that's part of the brands. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I think that they're
a little less visa necessary.
True. Well, and this is the thing too. Like we're talking about the visas and we're talking about supporting American talent at a very local, at a very direct level. This house has a mostly black cast in an era where the current administration is literally trying to make it illegal. And I think this is something well worth supporting. Honestly, for that alone. That being said, there are no bad weak links in any of these casts that I can find, at least among the names that I'm super aware of. There's something so cool about an American opera company doing American things that is not taking too much from Europe. There's no trading around big name directors or singers. It is presenting it as its own thing. I think that's the point of a festival, right? You're going to a place to see something. You're not seeing something that's been recycled among 37 European opera companies, And I generally think that's a real plus for a company like Opera Theater St. Louis. And they're also, as another bonus point, they're planning on starting construction on their brand new theater, which was announced last week. They are on the up and a growing opera company in the United States of America in the year of our Lord 2025. That's something to celebrate, and I think you should celebrate it at Opera Theater St. Louis.
Well, brethren, I believe that we need to also take a quick visit to America's stronger older brother, the big one across the pond. The questionable dental work aside, we're going to go to the UK. We're going to Glyndebourne, as I like to call
France
her.
And England in the same episode.
We're doing it. Or as I like to call her, Midsummer Mozart in the Meadows. So we're sticking mostly with seasons here, which I am happy to talk about, but a couple of extra bonus points since my colleague was so willing to point some of those things out. This is a place that's been operating in the black for most of their time. They actually met their ticket sales goals before the season even started, like weeks before. So points there. Also, they're doing things green. They're implementing earth-friendly initiatives, including wind turbines. I'm guessing not during the productions, but that's part of what they're using to generate their energy. Okay, let's get on to their season, their 90th birthday year. They are doing 6 magical
That's a lot more
shows.
than 50. Just saying.
It's a bit more. So we got 6 magical shows. There are 2 new productions. They are doing their first ever Parsifal. Music director Robin Ticciati is conducting with our buddy Jessica Munison. There's also some really cool people, friend of the show, John Relier, friend of the show, Ryan Speedo Green. The fun thing about Wagner is that the co-founder of the festival, John Christie, he was a big Wagner stan and he always wanted to put it on in that original house, but they were never able to do it until roughly 20 years ago, and this is their first ever Parsifal. The other new production they are going to do is the other thing they're known for, which is Mozart. They're going to do a new production of Figaro, which is the festival's most performed opera. It's got some really interesting folks, including our buddy Hugh Montague Rendell. We've also got Michael Nagel as Figaro and Anna El Qasim as Susanna. And then after we have those two brand new productions, we are returning to some tried and true favorites. Barry Kosky's staging of Handel's Saul. This is that one that went kind of on a global tour after it started here 10 years ago. Friend of the show, Yeston Davies, who started in the original production, is coming back to play, I believe, Saul. I can't remember if he sings Saul or David. David, my bad. But yes, so he's coming back for this and he's staying with our buddy Barry. So like, how do you not like that? Then we move on to a lovely production that we're returning to of Barber of Seville. Annabelle Arden's super, super colorful production that started there 9 years ago with a very interesting cast. Then we're moving on to Falstaff. This is a very interesting post-war setting that started in 2009. This is Richard Jones' setting. We've got some very interesting people in the cast. Renato Girolami as Falstaff. London Phil's going to be the orchestra for that. And then finally, rounding this all out, we're going to Katja Kavanova. This is the first revival for this here at the festival. Also with our buddy Robin back at the conductor's podium with some very interesting people. Katarina Nietsikova, I believe is how you say that name. Nikki Spence, and then Susan Bickley, John Tomlinson. Miles McKinnon is making his Glyndebourne debut. So we got a lot going on. We've got a whole lot going on. But again, as much as you wanted to talk about Louise, I'm going to just talk about Parsifal. How exciting is that? We're going to really be rounding out the Wagner repertoire here at Glyndebourne, which is not something they were necessarily known for. And I think that takes courage and guts. And I would like to applaud Glyndebourne for putting that into their festival.
The judges would like to hear Weston's argument why Parsifal shouldn't be done at Glyndebourne.
That is true. It's going to be hard. I do think we are in a situation now where Matt Cummings is going to be in the position of rejecting either Parsifal or or Fledermaus, which is going to be an interesting revelation into his inner world, I think.
You do make a good point.
So I am going to alert the audience of all the times that Ashley relied on casting to make her argument.
Seems
Even,
like my
I know
co-judge.
That's what I was excited
Sounds
about.
like my co-judge hates singers and doesn't think that they should be part of opera festivals.
No, but pulling at my heartstrings by mentioning Yeston Davis and Hugh Montague Rendell is sort of unfair to Opera Theater of St. Louis, which is an actual friend of the show. But everybody knows that Hugh is like the love of my life.
We do, in fact, all know.
Glyndebourne, you have an opportunity to be an actual friend of the show. Glyndebourne, you can do something here.
And Yeston Davis was my pick at the beginning of the year as an artist to continue watching. So if I'm just going to go by my own, proclivities, I have to choose Glyndebourne. I have to, even though I love OTSL. And I actually enjoy the Die Fledermaus. I'm not like a person who hates Louise and Die Fledermaus, like the rest of my panel here.
That's what it says on my LinkedIn.
I would
Hater of
never,
Louise
I would
and
never,
Fledermaus.
ever put Louise in the same category as Die Fledermaus.
Can we mash them up? Can we put those two shows together? Like Act 1, Act 2?
Louise
Let's
or
just see how it
Mouse.
goes.
Die Fledermaus.
Depuis le Czardas.
Depuis le Czardas. We've done
Move
it, folks.
over,
That's
Cat
it.
I'm
Ag.
sorry to
Title of show, Depuis le Czardas.
I'm so sorry to say, Weston, that I have to agree with Oliver. I mean, Opera Theater of St. Louis is a great company that does great work, but who am I to resist a picnic in the meadows?
No.
And there go our American audiences as well.
That's basically all of our
Man.
audience.
We're disappointing everyone today. I'm sorry, America.
Okay, so for the final matchup, we have the Salzburg Festival representing Austria and Glyndebourne Festival representing our greatest ally, England.
For today.
We're moving back into like a World
Yeah.
War I alignment at this point.
Okay, so Matt, what did you leave in the tank that you didn't say yet?
Oh,
Since
so
you-
many shows are still in the tank. So it wouldn't be the Salzburg Festival without a little bit of Mozart. So there are 2 Mozart offerings this year. One is a semi-staged concert of Mitridate Re di Ponto, a remounting.
It doesn't count. Concert staging.
It has a semi-staging. You're just making up rules now. But anything that gives our friend of the show, Penepati, a chance to pull 19 high Cs out of his back pocket, like that one aria in Mitridate does, is a friend of mine. We've also got one for Weston. The Peter Edvich's Three Sisters, featuring friends of the show, Arya Nussbaum-Kom and Kangmin Justin Kim, as well as many, many others. An encore performance from the 2023 Whitsun Festival of Macbeth, Verdi's Macbeth, which is being co-programmed with a new piece of Macbeth called Sharino. But the highlight of the Macbeth has got to be, I'm saying, Asmik Grigoryan's Lady Macbeth. I found some videos of her doing it at Salzburg before, and oh my god, can she sing this role? It is so fascinating to hear a voice with that steeliness and clarity, like, just go through those absolutely bonkers vocal lines. And another one of my favorites, Charles Castronovo, is going to be in as Macduff there.
Friend of the show, Charles Castronovo.
Friend of the show, indeed. The casting alone for the other Mozart, Zaida, Sabine Devier, Léa Desantres, friend of the show, Julien Précardien, you got to be there. Andrea Chenier, it's kind of a Louise of operas, if I'm gonna, rank them into my favorite tiers, but it is worth going to if you got a cast that is just gonna absolutely sing their faces off. And you better believe that Piotr Bachawa and Elena Stikina are gonna sing their faces off in that final duet in front of the scaffold, and throughout the rest of the opera as well. And finally, I've lost track of how many operas I'm listing, but we've got the Theodor Korensis conducting Castor et Pollux, featuring the wonderful Janine de Beek, who is going to sing circles around anyone at Glyndebourne,
and also has in the cast Nicholas Newton, who we'll talk about later on today, and Bay Lawrence Kilsby. The Salzburg Festival definitely brings in people that I want to see. You didn't even mention that the Etvosh opera has friends of the show, Justin Kim and Arya Nussbaum. Oh, you did? Okay. I guess I tuned out because you kept talking about artists when you weren't supposed to be. So, but Theodor Korensis is canceled. So that is a point against
that is
the
true.
Salzburg Festival.
Wow.
But
How do you
Raphael
even keep track of all the cancellations?
But Raphael Pichon sort of negates everybody because he's so amazing, and he's conducting that Zaida with Julien Précardien, friend of the show, and Léa Desantres, who is the fiancée of the love of my life, Thomas Dunford. So let's go back to Glyndebourne Festival. Maybe Weston, it sounds like Ashley might even need some help here, because it seems like Salzburg is going to run away with this thing.
We'll see.
Listen, like any worthy opponent, Salzburg puts up a very, very impressive roster. And like any team that makes it into the final championship, we're going to amend our strategy a little bit. We're going to shift our nature, our game of play, if you will. I want to talk about the convenience and the geography and the intellectual design of the programming that happens at Glyndebourg. These productions are set up as day trips for Londoners, for working professionals, the gals on the go, if you will. We're always interested in finding ways to make opera more accessible. So this is somehow both a destination, a place to see and be seen, but also something you can do in a day. Performances start in the afternoon, and that gives Londoners the ability to leave town after lunch, and it gives them time to finish in time to catch the very last train back into the city. There's a long interval that allows opera goers to have picnic dinners on the extensive lawns and one of the restaurants on the gorgeous grounds. So if you're somebody who's an American and from the Midwest, think Ravinia with like better transit and less traffic, or, any of the things that you might find in the Berkshires. So I just want to mention very quickly the intelligent design with the theater goer in mind. Also, did I mention Parsifal? Also, did I mention Hugh Montague Randall? Did I mention Yeston Davies? Did I mention them? Honey, we're going to turn this into an altar call.
I'm just browsing. I'm browsing the website right now of Glam Festival, and it's my dream to go there. It's probably my dream to get married on the lawn over there.
But I'm looking at Randall.
Yes, I'm looking at their frequently asked questions, plan your visit page. And on the page, it says what to wear. And there's a picture of 4 people. The men are in tuxes, summer tuxes, I assume. And the women are in summer dresses, but very beautiful summer dresses and a hat. And it says, a visit here is a chance to look different for a day. At the festival, evening wear is traditional, while the autumn season has a smart casual dress code. So I guess it's formal attire until September 22nd.
Wow, so much for accessibility.
That is true.
I didn't realize that we were all supposed to be planning our lives around work. What an American mindset to approach a European summer opera festival. Some of us are working to live and not living to work. And we are happy to take a 2.5-hour train from Vienna to Salzburg and just enjoy the alpine air. Go see the fountains.
And any ambitious play that's tried in the championship, sometimes they backfire on you.
Yeah, I mean, I do think this sort of country festival vibe is a unique vibe, and going out into the English countryside and cosplaying as a English aristocrat is very fun.
A weekend in the country,
but once again, I find my heart yearning for the hills that I'm told are alive on the Sound of Music tour
for 6 whole weeks.
For 6 whole weeks, I could do that tour over and over and over again. I think it has to go to Salzburg.
Well, even though we tried our best, even though we came in a pickup game to do what we could. Speaking of games, let's talk about other games. Hey, I hear Oliver has sports.
Oh, I told you all last week that I stopped paying attention to the Miami Open because Carlos lost in the first round, but I did catch up with the final yesterday.
So you lied.
God, who knew that the March Madness bracket was going to tear us apart?
Man, we're a house divided.
A teenage, it's like the first time we're together in months, and that's it. We can't stand each other. We're like the Ratliff family.
Is ugly.
The teenager Jakub Mensik beats Novak Djokovic, denying him of his 100th title in a Miami Open upset. He's 19 years old, and he considers Novak Djokovic to be his personal hero. And this kid stormed through the tour, through the tournament, and I had no idea who he was. And now I've got to pay attention to yet another teenager.
Oh, tread lightly.
Anyway, congratulations to Jakub Mensik winning his first tournament and taking out his personal hero along the way. Winner of his first 1,000-point title. The Miami Open. Congratulations, Jakub Mensik. And in a surprise to nobody, Aryna Sabalenka won the women's final.
Yes, I'm so unsurprised.
Yeah.
Well, in my list of personal heroes, we are now going to add a new person to that list. Alabama Angel himself, Charles Barkley. Okay, I am starting a petition for him to do a tight 5 at the Laugh Factory. His March Madness commentary is hilarious. That man is in his 60s. How old is he? He is 62 years old. He has lived a life. He knows basketball
and stretch and kick.
He's 60. I mean, but his commentary is he has 0 F's left in his pocketbook. He will say anything and everything, and he's got great commentary on the game, but he also just pops off with these hilarious things that are, well, his PR team probably doesn't want him to say them. They're not going to get him canceled or anything, but he is naturally and not on purpose funny. And so I really want him to try stand up. I want to try it one time. I'll buy out the entire theater myself. At any rate, we are going to head into the 2-minute drill, which is next.
This just in. The 2-minute drill.
All right, listen up. Here's everything you need to know about what happened in Operaland this week. Charles McKay, the former general director of Santa Fe Opera, was arrested on March 21st in Powell, Wyoming, after he was accused of propositioning 2 teenagers for sex, according to the Powell Tribune. McKay has been charged with 4 felonies and has been released on bail.
Chicago Opera Theater has announced its 2025-26 season, featuring 3 new-to-Chicago operas: Antonio Salieri's Falstaff, Kurt Weill's Der Silbersee, and the world premiere of Aaron Israel Levin and Marella Martin Cox's Trusted in concert.
Opera Philadelphia's 2025-26 season will kick off with a production of Rossini's Il Viaggio a Rome. Also slated are The Seasons, which is a new work featuring the music of Antonio Vivaldi set to a libretto by Sarah Rule, starring Anthony Roth Costanzo. The world premiere of Complications Ensue, a new opera in 10 vignettes with libretto by Michael R. Jackson and music by 10 different composers. Gregory Spears' Sleepers Awake, based on an absurdist retelling of Sleeping Beauty. And The Black Clown, which takes the poetry of Langston Hughes and sets it to music by Michael Schachter. The popular $11 pick-your-price tickets will also return, but people will have to act fast to claim them.
The creative team of fellow travelers, based on the Lavender Scare of the 1950s, have pulled their show from the upcoming season of Washington National Opera at the Kennedy Center, citing concern over Donald Trump's takeover of the institution's leadership. In a letter to WNO, quote, "The expansion of freedom and liberty for all people are core values of the opera and the book upon which it is based. The current administration's takeover of the Kennedy Center and many of its policies contradict these values."
Meanwhile, the Kennedy Center has gutted a community outreach program known as Social Impact, firing several employees and deleting references to the program on its website. The program had worked to expand the audience for opera and symphony performances, to commission works by underrepresented voices, and to advance justice and equity. Classical programming remains largely unaffected. The center announced, quote, "robust and fairly typical programs for Washington National Opera and the National Symphony next season."
Opera Nordford has canceled its U.S. tour over safety concerns stemming from the government's treatment of immigrants, said opera director Kari Standal-Pavlik. "As long as we hear about innocent people who have been detained during passport control, it is not appropriate to expose the opera's employees to similar danger. When we have also been advised by both the Norwegian and American governments to tone down the focus on migration today in order to please the new administration, it is not appropriate to travel."
Conductor Franz Welser-Möst, however, will continue to perform in the United States, but draws the line at going to the Kennedy Center. He said, "The politics there and the government crackdown irritate me too much, but that makes it all the more important to support places where culture is celebrated as a form of debate, humanism, and human dignity, especially now. We must believe in the power of music and assert it."
Philanthropist Penelope Steiner has made an unprecedented $25 million donation to the Lyric Opera of Chicago. Steiner is also vice chair of the company's board of directors, and her gift constitutes one of the largest one-off individual contributions in the company's history.
Faculty at Manhattan School of Music's pre-college division have a new contract after a strike and a semester-long negotiation. The agreement includes raising the wage floor minimum by 70% over the course of the contract while prohibiting class size increases. Other significant gains for the faculty include new minimum pay rates for directors of large ensembles, orchestral conductors, and teachers whose students are assessed a surcharge.
Apple Classical has announced new upgrades to their streaming service, including a listening guide to provide users with written context about the works, personalized recommendations based on user history, and curated editorial stations with playlists based on a particular instrument, composer, time period, and genre.
In major awards news, Elena Garanca has been given the first ever recognition award from the Association Austria, Nordic, and Baltic countries. Upon receiving the honor, Garanca said, "As an artist born in Latvia and deeply connected to Austria, I truly believe that music builds bridges between people and nations. This award is a testament to the power of culture, tradition, and friendship in bringing us together."
Seems like she was born to win that award. Bass baritone Nicholas Newton is the winner of the 2025 Marian Anderson Vocal Award. The award includes a cash prize, a residency at Washington's Duke Ellington School for the Arts, and a Kennedy Center recital. But don't tell Rick Grinnell that Marian Anderson was black.
German bass baritone Thomas Kvasthoff has been awarded the prestigious Rheingau Music Prize in recognition of his outstanding lifetime contribution to the music world. And New Mexico has dubbed March 11th as Santa Fe Opera Day, henceforth and forthwith, huzzah!
On the disabled list, Ludovic Tézier withdrew from his final performances of Simone Boccanegra at Berlin State Opera this week. In a social post, he says, "Dear friends, I am sorry to confirm that my series at the Staatsoper Berlin has to be cancelled. Prudence must lead and rest must prevail. Berlin has not yet announced his replacement."
Exit stage right, American mezzo-soprano Elizabeth Russo has died of cancer at age 64. Russo was a winner of the Classical Productions vocal competition at Carnegie Hall in the 90s, and sang Fricka for London's Fulham Opera during their Ring cycle from 2012 to 14.
And on this day, March 31st, birthdays include Austrian composer Franz Joseph Haydn, born this day in 1732, Basque composer Jose Maria Uzandezaga, born this day in 1887, Austrian conductor Clemens Krauss was born on March 31st in 1893, German soprano Elisabeth Grömer was born this day in 1911. American baritone and Tony Award winner Richard Kiley was born in 1922 in Chicago, hometown. In 1941, American composer and friend of the show Jake Heggie was born. Happy birthday! We celebrate the birthday of the late American soprano Christine Weidinger, born this day in 1946. But happy birthday to Romanian soprano Nelly Miricioiu, born this day in 1952, as well as Hungarian tenor Denis Gulyás, born this day in 1954, and happy birthday to English composer Thomas Ades, born this day in 1971. First performances include Antonio Stradella's Oratorio St. John the Baptist, which premiered in Rome in 1675, Jean-Philippe Rameau's Platée, which premiered at Versailles in 1745, and on this day, March 31st, in 1949, it was the first performance of The Troubled Island, an opera by William Grant Still.
And that's your 2-minute drill.
That was the wonderful soprano Elisabeth Grömer singing Elsa's first aria from what I do consider to be the definitive recording of Lohengrin, with Kempe conducting and Christa Ludwig absolutely tearing it up as Ortrud. Just a fantastic listen from beginning to end, and in no small part due to Grömer. So check it out if you haven't listened to it before.
So Santa Fe Opera is a friend of the show. And it's just we have to stand by our ethics and report all of the news. So it pains us to have to talk about the former general director of Santa Fe Opera. So we want to give a collective...
Yeah, that's the noise.
Anyway, let's talk about some seasons.
So we all know that Lydia Yankovskaya is departing from Chicago Opera Theater, or has departed.
R.I.P. She's gone.
But her Vanguard initiative continues, and the opera Trusted, which we mentioned in the drill by the Vanguard composers, that's continuation of that initiative.
And it'll be the 7th opera to be premiered as through that pipeline of development and training.
General Director Larry Edelson, also a friend of the show, says that they're committed to presenting rarely produced operas and new works with a focus on pieces that have never been seen in Chicago before, and which are especially impactful in the more intimate venues where we produce settings that offer a different kind of experience in the city's larger stages. Salieri and Weil, that's a season.
I know.
Yeah.
They're continuing their tradition, coming off of the Fidelio that was not by Beethoven this past season, and doing a Falstaff that is not by Verdi, which I think is very fun. And honestly, I mean, I think that this might be a spicy take for all of you Amadeus fans out there, but I really love the operas of Salieri. They're really not done at all, but I think I really like him.
If you only know him from the movie, you walk away thinking like, how did this hack get to be where he is? And it's certainly not
absolutely
level of incompetence.
Turns out he's kind of good.
He can go toe to toe with any composer, including Mozart, for I think a lot of Mozart's output.
And then he shows up in season 2 of White Lotus. What do you know?
I know. It's really just because F. Murray Abraham is so good that you believe that he couldn't write music.
That's acting. It's so funny. I think about sort of the evolution of what's happened over at Chicago Opera Theater. In a previous life in my career, I was part of a conservatory that was sort of educating the city and its residents musically on sort of what our scene looked like. And so when we were talking about sort of COT versus lyric opera, I don't know, 15 years ago, sort of the quick character sketch was COT did sort of the bookends. They did the very early and the very late. And then lyric was responsible for all of the meat in the middle, the Verdis and the Puccinis and the, even the Mozarts. That's just not really the case now. So when someone's asking me like, well, what's the difference between COT and lyric? And I'm like, well, a lot, but I also can't boil it down to the brass tacks of it all. Big versus adventurous and avant-garde. Like it's hard to sort of be able to describe the difference between the two, but I really do love the evolution that's happening over at COT. I really appreciate sort of what they've turned into.
And Larry Adelson is clearly, trying to create something, I think, with the, in the post Lydia age, because one of Lydia Yankovskaya's hallmarks was presenting something Eastern European every single year. And while I loved that, and that was something that I was very much a fan of, I do think it feels wrong to continue that without someone like Lydia Yankovskaya at the helm to really make sure.
As the champion of those words.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
So I think this is our first kind of glimpse into what Larry's vision is over the next few years for COT. And I think it will, come into more focus over the next few seasons.
And Opera Philadelphia season will be the first glimpse at Anthony Roth Costanzo's vision. Sort of some interesting offerings. Nothing really.
When the thing that's most in the mainstream in your season is a Viaggio a Rem, that really is.
As proud as I am of my city, I think I'm going to have to go get an apartment in Philly so that I can hang out there. I love this season. I love so much about it. It's so much of the things that I've been like screaming about where I want to see opera go. Like Anthony's really doing it. The vignette composers thing, I am so excited about that.
Yeah, the names on that vignette composer show
heavy hitter.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we didn't want to just drop 10 names into the middle of one 2-minute drill item, because how would you ever work your way back up syntactically? But you've got Missy Mazzoli writing one, Renee Orth, Nico Muley, Cecile McLaurin-Salvant, Kamala Sankaram, Andy Akiho, Alistair Coleman,
cool.
Nathalie Joachim, Dan Schlossberg, and Erilyn Wallen. Like, those are some names.
Okay, so
Truly.
Cecile McLaurin-Salvant is a jazz singer, right?
Yes, she's incredible.
That's her claim to fame.
She's incredible.
Yeah, and Andy Akiho is the steel drum.
He's the percussion guy. He's really big right now.
So just to see those names in the mix, it's like, okay,
We're getting experimental.
Yeah, I see what's happening here. And like you're trying to cast a very large net in a very niche arena, all the Andy Akiho fans,
Well, I mean, if anyone's going to be able to take something that experimental and like make it work, it's going to be Michael R. Jackson, who did A Strange Loop.
Yeah.
So, and he's the one writing the libretto for his first opera libretto, which I think is a really exciting get for Opera Philadelphia as well.
So Gregory Spears is in the news twice with his contribution to the Opera Philadelphia season, and I guess maybe he's part of the team that's withdrawing fellow travelers from the Kennedy Center.
I believe
so.
Francesca Zambello was not happy about that.
Should get
That's a heck of a transition there, Camacho. Good job.
Yeah, we're gonna get all of our Kennedy Center news out right now. So
well, it's happening. Who's ready for cats in 6 languages? That's
Okay,
what they're gonna have.
How dare you besmirch the reputation of Cats?
It is a hot garbage musical.
Okay, we're gonna have to do a spring training for your ears about why Cats is actually not as bad as people like to say it is someday.
Oh God, the song is memory. I'm begging to forget. I don't want to know anything more about it.
No, as
Oh
is
my
the case
God.
with most Andrew Lloyd Webber musicals, the marquee tune is not the good part. It's the
That's
weird
true.
stuff in the middle, and I'm not even talking about the 3-minute excerpt of Tosca that is just dropped into the middle of Carl Tiger's Last Stand.
The sitting president legitimately loves that musical. I will not be surprised if it shows up in like 6 different iterations over the coming years. Mark my words.
I know, it's hilarious that he loves Evita too, when I'm like, it's about you, right?
Yeah, I'm like, baby, have you read? Like, do you know? Have
He
you?
does
I
not,
mean,
he
he's
has not, and he does not. But
No, he's not self-aware to understand that sort of stuff. Yeah, the Kennedy Center news is so. God, it just bums me out. But again, this is a longer conversation for another day. But this thought of, boycotting the U.S. because of our treatment of, I don't know, everybody, very valid. But also for the people in this country, do we fully boycott the Kennedy Center? If we go away, if all the good guys leave, then who's left? Again, I don't want to get into that right now, but I would love if we would dedicate some space into trying to figure out how we're gonna keep these American institutions while navigating the dystopian Hadescape that is the people that are now in charge of programming at America's Greatest Hall.
yeah, we talked about this last week, but it is just so hard to do something like boycott the Kennedy Center in order to make a statement when we're all living in this universe where
Right.
statements don't go anywhere. In order for it to actually be a statement, someone has to hear it and they have to understand what is going on, and that is just so hard in the attention economy that we're living in. And what's not going to help is Robert Ward's The Crucible, which is what is replacing Fellow Travelers. They were like, oh, something about mid-century American politics. Let's replace it with an allegory about mid-century
Yeah.
American politics.
Let's shame women. That's fun. Yeah, it's I don't really know how to. Anger fatigue is real. There's so much to be angry about, and where you put your ire and how you disperse your ire while also protecting your peace and guarding your heart is a journey that we're all gonna go on together. But it's, again, a longer conversation for a different day. Hey, who's excited about the Apple tool?
I mean, they're trying to take over the world one step at a time, at least the classical music world. I did try it out in terms of the descriptive thing is really only available for a few albums at the moment, as far as I could tell. I tried it on a classic Philip Glass solo piano album, and it gave a little bit of interesting context, and then it was like, listen to these arpeggios and see them go up and down and how they interlock. I'm like, okay, that sure is something. I do think it is kind of a neat tool, maybe for people who are unfamiliar with classical music in terms of how to listen to classical music, or at least certain things, because I think that's, from an educational standpoint, that is always the hardest thing to get someone who's never listened to classical music before, who is very familiar with, a very specific...
Are the contextual stuff in sync with the music? Is it like
it is, yes.
time with the experience?
It's not just notes.
Pop-up video style?
It's like, when you're listening to a normal song and you see the lyrics, normal being like pop music, you see the lyrics pop up. It's the same kind of thing, except it's descriptive and gives you a little bit of context for what's going on, which I think is a neat idea. And I could see it used as an educational tool for sure. The recommendations, in my experience, don't seem to be working that great yet, but that could just be my bizarre musical tastes more than Apple.
Yeah, you're an especially difficult one to pin down, so I don't know that we can blame Apple for that.
Okay, that's our assignment. We all have to test drive this new tool on Apple, and we'll speak about it on a future segment. Since we're all burning out because we've talked about the Kennedy Center and now our brains are oozing out the sides of our ears, why don't we wrap this show up?
Good call. Bad call on Opera Box Score.
Good call, bad call. That's how we close out every one of our shows. Oliver Camacho, I'm going to start with you.
I saw Thomas Dunford in a solo recital last weekend, and it might have been the best concert of this year for me so far. And that's all I'll say. Please ask me offline why it was so good, but I didn't expect to be so moved by a solo lute recital. And I went to the Prima of the listeners, and it's bomb. Nicole Heaston, if they do not bring her back in one of her signature roles, like Donna Elvira or Alcina or something like that, it's a crime. She is so good. Jonas Hacker as her sort of love interest / student. I forget his name, Kyle, who break your heart. Friend of the show, Kyle Kettleson, is so creepy as the cult leader Howard. And Daniela Mack, friend of the show, is sounding like $1,000,000. Like her voice just like hits you like in the back of the head. Like it's such a good vocal production. And she's sort of I don't want to say lunatic, but she's a bit hysterical. But I can't use that word with women because I'll get canceled. But she's sort of hysterical.
Weston Williams.
My bad call is Oliver getting canceled like 4 times this episode. No, I have a bad call, and it has to do with actually one of Oliver's good calls, the Thomas Dunford concert, which I went into work and ran to Oliver, and he told me that is the best concert he's ever seen. I was like, I didn't even know it was happening. So I went home, opened my mailbox, and I got that evening an advertisement that included informing me about the concert. So I missed Thomas. That's my bad call. Do better, University of Chicago classical advertising mail out people.
Matt Cummings.
I mean, I think we just need to go for it all together, Ashley, because what is on everybody's lips at the end of this hour is what is going to happen on White Lotus next week.
Yes, 1,000%. Okay, so this is the thing. We are lucky enough to be alive in the season of what I am calling the double gog, and that is 2 shows back to back featuring National Treasure and my second husband, Walter Goggins. Okay, he is incredible. The amount of range that he gets in the character of Rick, and then moving on to Baby Billy and Righteous Gemstones. Are you kidding me? If you're not watching White Lotus, you need to be watching Righteous Gemstones. If you are not watching Righteous Gemstones, you need to be watching White Lotus. If you're not watching either, I don't have any use for you. Seek help. I don't know what to do. Matt, what are we going to do next week? What are we going to do when the finale comes for White Lotus?
We are going to be missing the hell out of Carrie Coon. That is what we're going to be doing, because as the only part of the Gilded Age that is actually good, Pacha Christine Baranski, I love you. It's not your fault. But
yes.
But Carrie Coon is getting to wear hoop skirts and circles around you. I had never really had a chance to experience Walton Goggins because I never watched Justified and I need to get started on Righteous Gemstones as soon as possible.
Immediately.
But I am going to miss Parker Posey and the
Piper,
drawls that last 25 seconds.
Buddhism.
Tsunami.
Yes, no. Tsunami. No, well, hello, Southerner here. Southern lady here. Also, big Parker Posey fan here, excuse me. That accent, she's gotten some pushback from people. First of all, she's originally from Alabama. Second, what she's doing is a coastal affluent Carolina accent, and that's what makes it so beautiful and sing-songy and
Tobacco
hilarious.
Road,
but
baby.
yes, Tobacco Road. And so the phrase of 2025, I'm calling it now, is Piper No.
Piper No.
That is it for this week's edition of America's Talk Radio Show about opera. Make sure you subscribe to our show wherever you get your podcasts. You can get your voice heard and find links to stuff that we've talked about on our website, which is, guess what? operaboxscore.com. That is also where you can put your money where our mouths are. Give back to the OBS using our Support the Team tab. Your announcer is Norm Woodell. Your creative consultant is Oliver Camacho, and your audio editor is Weston Williams. The executive producer of the OBS is George Cedarquist. For co-host Matt Cummings, I am Ashley Hargrave, asking you to continue the conversation about opera as you let prudence lead and rest prevail. We are back with an all-new show next week when we go inside the huddle with baritone Timothy Murray, the star of Opera Philadelphia's Don Giovanni. Plus, you'll get more headlines from opera, more hot takes, and more Piper No. Join us.